Teachers of Reddit, what was the best lateness excuse you ever heard? When I was in college, a kid showed up nearly an hour late to our final exam. His excuse: I was in jail until about 25 minutes ago. Seems like he learned his lesson. Just heard this one last week. I'm sorry I was late. I have diarrhea. Truth or lie, you have to respect bathroom problems. One of my buddies slept in on the day of one of his finals in uni. Was already over an hour late into the 3-hour exam. He called his family doctor, who happened to be a close family friend, and got him to write a note so he'd be able to retake it. The doctor put down that my friend had diarrhea. One of the male final year students in my college was so desperate to get a doctor's note for a missing exam, he got one from a gynecologist. I heard this from one of my lecturers. They were quite perplexed. A freshman girl with a junior brother was late. She said her brother was taking forever in the shower in the morning. I can't figure out why it takes him so long. He has short hair. What is he doing in there? He does this all the time. Office staff was cracking up when she left. I am a teacher. This year I have a student who comes in halfway through first period literally every single day. I finally got on his case about why I try not to pry, but my god, and he finally admitted that he didn't like waking up to an alarm. So he doesn't. He just eventually wakes up and comes to school. New wave. I like it. At least he'll be able to choose second shift work once he's in the working world. Primary teacher here teaching 11-year-olds. Kid comes in 30 minutes late because he was waiting for his lead shoes to finish charging. Turns out he was not lying and proceed to moonwalk over to his chair with his shoes flashing. Couldn't even be mad, it was too cool stupid at the same time. This kid is going to be fine. Once we had some pretty bad storms right in the middle of finals week. While I was walking to class from the parking lot, I saw someone had driven their car to class with their windshield shattered and bits of the tree branch that did it still stuck in the wipers. One of my teachers told that a girl came in late and claimed there had been a bomb attack next door to her home and that the road was blocked. We live in Finland, so the story was an obvious lie. Except it wasn't. There had been a bomb at the police station next to her home, the only of its kind in decades. I was a TA, running twice weekly lab sessions in the evening. Being more than 10 minutes late to lab usually earned a 0 grade for the day, so you usually needed a medical note or police report to get out of it. At the end of class, one student who was 20 minutes late came up to me and apologized profusely. He was a quiet, unassuming Chinese guy with glasses and a below average grasp on the English language. He told me that while he was walking to class, a guy in front of him was shot multiple times by a man in a nearby parked car, which then sped off. He claimed that he rushed over to the man and attempted to attend to his wounds along with another bystander, but that he died before the ambulances arrived. My first thought was, that's ridiculous. But then I noticed his shirt, jeans, and forearms covered in blood. Before I had a chance to really say anything, he beelines it to the exit and leaves. A couple hours later, out of curiosity, I googled Toronto shooting death, and sure enough, there's a 14-minute-old article describing a fatal shooting that occurred earlier in the day, not terribly far from campus. The next day, I get an email from the course instructor, informing me that the student had submitted a police report to confirm his involvement in the incident. Motherfucker held a man in his arms as he died and still made the effort to come to class. I can't even imagine what that guy was going through, as he quietly sat in the back of that room. Not me, but a teacher I knew. Had a high school freshman that was late because he forgot he had high school and went to his middle school. Kid actually sat in a class before realizing he was at the wrong school. He had the visitor's pass his middle school gave him as proof. Teacher kept the middle school visitor's pass as proof of that lateness story. I work in South Korea and had a 5th grader say he was late because he caught a whale, which is a local euphemism for getting circumcised. That happens enough that there's a euphemism? Not sure if this applies, but a teacher was telling us about how important it was to hand in our essays until the end of the week. We had to hand 2 essays per week. While she was talking about how she wouldn't accept tardiness, there was this only one exception when she accepted it on the following week. Turns out a student was mugged on his way to school. He ended up losing his backpack with everything inside, including the essays, phone, wallet, socks and shoes. The student ended up going to talk to the teacher barefoot and crying, telling her how he tried even to persuade the assailant to let him get the essays out of his backpack, but to no avail. In high school, 2 girls asked to go to the bathroom at the beginning of drama class, which is a 45-minute class. The teacher let them go. They came back with 5 minutes left in class, holding McDonald's bags. The teacher cocked an eyebrow and asked what took them so long. One girl sighed and said there was just a really long line for the bathroom. I had a friend who was late to first period Spanish class every day of senior year. One day, the teacher had enough and told him he was going to be marked as absent if he was late again. Lo and behold, he's abnormally late the next day, but almost kicks down the door with how excited he is about his excuse. He was rear-ended just outside of the school by the math teacher, who only hit my friend's car because he himself was rear-ended by another student at the same school. And if that situation wasn't enough, while the 3 drivers were exchanging info, one waltzed up to the cars, hopped in the backmost one, and took off with it down the street. Needless to say, my friend wasn't marked absent that day. I had a small, regular, close-knit study group for my Latin classes. One of the members stopped showing up. To study group. To class. To tests. To anything. Nobody could get a hold of her for about 2 weeks. One day she shows up to class a bit flustered, just after we'd finished a major exam, and everybody's wondering if this professor is just going to fucking destroy her. Nope. He says, "Hey, where have you been? We've been so worried about you, are you okay?" She's so worried about not having done homework or weekly exams or this midterm, and he doesn't give a fuck, he just wants to know if she's fine, and is trying to figure out where she disappeared to. Everybody else has left and it's just her, the professor, and a handful of the study group members. She blushes and explains that about 2 weeks ago she started dating a new guy and she'd been, unable to get much rest at all in that period. The professor claps his hands together and says that's wonderful and starts laughing happily, and the study group starts dying of laughter and she goes bright red. He simply told her that she could make up any of the work when she was ready, but don't feel rushed. So that was that. She was 2 weeks late because she'd been fucking. I knew a guy in high school who came in 40 minutes late after lunch and said, "Sorry, I was at Subway and they got my sandwich wrong. There's one Subway in our school town and it was about 30 minutes away at the other end of the high street." He was already 10 minutes late by the time he started walking back. I used this one as a kid. My dad ate my homework. In 7th grade for French class, I had to make a homemade French dish. I chose croissants as I was 12 and anything else would have been way too complicated. I made them with my mom after dinner and sometime after I went to bed, my dad ate like 6 of them, which meant I didn't have enough for the class. So on the way to school, I had to stop at Dunkin' Donuts and replace the ones my dad ate.